God bless you, everybody. I haven't been on here for a while. Um, and please excuse my voice, it's a little hoarse. But I haven't been on here for a while. I've been running around like a chicken with the head cut off, just very busy. God has been giving me words that, I could be on here, telling you about them, but none of them rose to the level where I felt like God was like you definitely like need to be online speaking these words. But this one that I had a couple of days ago, I basically had it on the crossover between September 30th and the new month, October the 1st. And which makes me think, well, maybe it has something to do with, people, how people say, every month that, there's a word or whatever, blah, blah. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying that that's not the truth or whatever, but I'm just, I marvel at the timing of it. But it was a very, it was different in terms of how the dream came about. It wasn't vague at all. And I do believe this is a mighty word from the Lord through this dream. So let me just get into the dream and just say what it was. So basically, I am either in a church or observing a church. And the name of the church is called In His Image. Now, I do know of a church named that, but the dream is not about that particular church. It is it's basically a play on words. But the name of the church that I'm observing, or I'm sitting in the pews, one or the other, I'm not quite sure, but the name of the church is In His Image. And I'm watching the church service, and you know how people prophesy or whatever, a prophet will get up, or, Spirit of the Lord will come upon a preacher, and they'll prophesy a word. Well, this wasn't even a prophecy. It was just like the church stopped, and all of a sudden the wind blew in the door, on both ends, and there was a light, and this word was said from the Lord himself. It wasn't even like God wasn't even using a person. It was the Lord himself. And the way that I knew it was the Lord himself, because the voice kind of like thundered itself. Like, like the word says, it was like, you could feel that voice. You could feel it when the voice spoke. And the voice said, I shall pass through Egypt. I shall pass this way. And it was said twice. And each time it was said, it was like it was the first time it was said. Like the second time it was said, it was like the first time ever hearing it. I don't know if that makes sense, because both times that it was said, you could hear the groans of the people that were in the audience. You could hear their longing for this to happen, for God to pass through Egypt and for him to pass this way. And so it was understood in the dream, but I have to explain it to you. So hopefully, you can go into the dream with me. I should have prayed that in the beginning, but hopefully you can just go into the dream with me and see this. But I have to explain the fact that I shall pass through Egypt was one thing. And then when God said, I shall pass this way, was a totally different thing. So the I shall pass this way meant God was going to pass through the church. He was like his presence was going to pass through the church. So when he said, I shall pass through Egypt, he was talking about spiritual Egypt, meaning bondage. So each time, it was like the first time ever hearing it. So when the people heard that, you could hear the groans of them, like, yes, Lord, come. Like like these people like been waiting for this to happen for so long, almost like the people in Revelation, like the martyrs that were like, how long, oh Lord, how long, like how long are you gonna like let these people how long before you avenge us? So it was like that. And so that was the end of the dream. So let me just explain the interpretation to this dream. When it was said, I shall pass through Egypt, that meant that God is saying that he is going to pass through to do this deliverance from bondage. There have been people who have been longing to be free. Egypt, 99.9 repeating decimal percentage points of the time, means bondage in the Bible. So people have been longing, wanting to live for God, and have been living for God the best that they know how. But they are in Egypt, they are in bondage, and there is something that's holding them back from being free. And they've tried all the self-help books. They went up to the front, and they had the pastor lay the hands and do everything that they have tried to shut every single demonic door that they may have opened. They have went back and renounced all the things in their past that the Lord has guided them and showed them to do. And they haven't opened up any new doors, but yet they still have this certain level of bondage that keeps holding on to them, no matter what it may be. Maybe it's some type of form of addiction, maybe it's depression, maybe it's gluttony, maybe it could be anything that's holding on to them, or maybe it's something where they just seem to get to a certain point and they can't get to the level where they succeed at something. Maybe it's lack, it could be anything. And they have been longing and calling out to God for it. And the dual meaning, though, for God saying that he's going to pass through Egypt is the fact that Egypt was known for their spiritists, for their dark arts, for all the things that they would do, the magicians, and they were known for that. And so there may be even, believe it or not, some witchcraft, some, whether known or unknown, there may be some witchcraft that has been against you. And I know people are, well, no, nothing can happen as long as you got Jesus in your heart, nothing can happen. But yet there may be some witchcraft out there, some people that have done some things to block you from from rising up to a certain level. And God is saying he's going to deal with that. And this is why in the dream I saw the wind come in. One of the reasons why I saw the wind come in from one end and from the other opposite end. Now I don't know if it was which way it was, if it was north and south or east or west, but it was two opposing directions of the wind blowing in the doors. And I'm not sure of this, but it makes me think of the east and the west winds of God. And so the east wind is usually used to dry up the enemy, to dry up the evil workers, the people that work evil, to dry them up. So it's a hot east wind. And the west wind is synonymous with deliverance. And so God is going to not only dry up those that have been working evil against you, whether it be in just literal behind the scenes, trying to block you, trying to block things, that sort of thing, like, physically just talking against you, whatever. Or It could be the literal, like somebody has Aya Newton bat wings and mixing them together against you and, found a strand of your hair or something. It could be like that. Either way, God is going to deal with these people and dry them up and pour out justice upon them. So that deals with I shall pass through the Egypt, where he was saying, I shall pass through Egypt. Then the second part was, I shall pass this way. Now that was known to everyone in the dream. That was known that he was saying, I'm going to pass through. I'm going to pass through to where you are, to the people that are in his image. I'm going to pass through, meaning my presence is going to pass through. And when you're in God's presence, at that moment, nothing matters. You are secure. You are purified. You feel the best that you ever, it's just like a little taste of what being in God's presence, like when everything gets said and done and the New Jerusalem and all that stuff, that's just a little taste of what it's going to be like. But you know how perfect you feel like when you in his presence. And I'm not saying like perfect, like, because sometimes people say like when you're in his presence, you become aware of how insignificant you are. And that's true. But I'm talking about that time when you're in his presence and you feel as if you are secure like you've never been before. There's joy in being in his presence. And there was also a longing in the dream for the people. The groan was for the groan of like the slaves wanting to be delivered. There's like a groan for that. But then there's also a groan. There's a longing just to be with God and be in his presence. And so I forget where I was going, but there is, for the people that are in his image. And I'm not talking about, for we are all created in his image, both male, female. Maybe I am talking about that. But I'm more specifically talking about those who reflect God's image, meaning that they live a life consecrated unto God. They live a life unto God. They are actively seeking God and seeking to be more like God. Becoming, it's not that you ever going to arrive, but you're working towards perfecting your life in Christ. There's nobody perfect. You're not going to be perfect. It's something that you're always striving to. It's running your race, as so to speak. You're in his image. You are basically a man or a woman of God, and it's either there's no in between for you. It's either you gonna do. Either you're going to obey the Lord or you're not. There's no in between. There's no gray area. Right for wrong. And, we living in a time where they call right wrong and wrong right. And so that's another reason I believe that people were groaning, because, we're living in this time where it's things that are being said, or we're being told that we can't say, that we know 100% it is not of God. And a lot of times, you could just go to the Bible and see for yourself. There's not even a question. When people ask you, silly things, or what's your stance on this issue? I don't have a stance on the issue. I believe whatever my God believes. That's my stance. Or I believe whatever the Bible says. That's my stance. And this is what God means by people that are in his image. Because the flip side of it is that man has distorted his image. And this is why the setting of the dream was in a church called In His Image. Because man has distorted God's image to make it into whatever they want to. Whatever their desires are, they change God to be whatever it is that gives them pleasure. So, in order to make things okay, they'll change the Bible and make whole Bibles after their own lifestyle. And so man has distorted his image. When I was praying on it, that was one of the things that came in my spirit, is that man had distorted his image to make wrong right. And that is akin to how they did in the Bible days, where people will make an idol. They'd make an idol because that God that they would make would allow them to do the things that they wanted, the wicked things that they wanted to do. And so it's the same here, where people will call themselves Christians, or even, have a church. I don't know if people even use this phrase anymore, but they'll call it they used to call it a seeker-friendly church. And so a seeker-friendly church is, you would make a church where everybody, you'd make it okay. People's sins would be okay. You make it okay. You make it seeker-friendly, so everybody will feel good about the sin that they're in. And God is saying that you have made an idol. You have distorted his image in order to do the sin that you want to do. So I don't know what, I can't even call a man or woman of God, but I don't know who has decided they want to come along and make God into this being that is okay with certain things. How can he be okay with certain things if it's written in his word and he's said it and he's done and it's in black and white, or even in the red of Jesus's words? How can we go then and distort and decide that we want to make our own Bible to make our own Bible to fit our lifestyle and what we want to do? And something like this, you really have to be led by God to you really have to be led by God, and you have to don't say no more than what he's giving you liberty to say. Because you may know, okay, well, God, there might be some more specific things, but this is all that I have liberty to say, only to tell you that your deliverance draws nigh, because he is going to deal with spiritual Egypt. He's going to set those free that have been longing for a very long time to be free from what a certain level of bondage. They may have gotten free to a certain extent, but there's some I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to say remnant, but there's some residue, as they say. And it's not just like a little bit of residue. It's just stuff that is just blocking. And he's going to deal with those that work evil. And then on the flip side, he's going to pass this way, meaning his presence. You're going to enjoy his presence. The people are longing to be with him. They're longing for him to just break through and just, I don't know, guys. I mean, does anybody else be longing for his presence? Just to be close, as that song, just to be close to him. So, all right, guys. Well, I love you, and until we meet again, hopefully it's not as long as it was before. All right, take care. Love you. Bye.